Eddie, you never like the scorecards to dominate the headlines, but when you heard 117, 111 between Hitchins and Lemos, what was going through your mind then?
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, I thought, you know, when I heard 117, 111, firstly I thought that can only be for Hitchins, because sometimes I think a judge can score that kind of style, you know, that boxing style, boxing move. But for me, 115, 113 is the right scorecard. Now, on a 115, 113 card, it can really be 115, 113 either way. You're 1 round away from a draw, you're 2 rounds away. When I see 117 and 111, if you look at the scorecards, which I think we've posted, that judge gave Richardson the last 4 rounds. Like, he definitely didn't win 11. He might not have won 12. But, you know, I thought that the cleaner work was from Richardson. I thought early on, the first 2 or 3 rounds, Lemos came out like a train. Then Hitchins started to control the fight. And then Lemos come back in the fight at the end. It was a really close fight, and Richardson was catching a lot of shots as well. But, you know, he was hurt a couple of times in the fight, but I thought it was an amazing fight. I mean, look, we've sometimes give Richardson a little bit of stick for not giving us those kind of fights, and tonight he did. So, well done, and Lemos, yes, we'll see you back very soon, because I thought he was fantastic.
Chris Mannix, I think, gave Lemos by 2 rounds. Were you surprised by what you saw from him? I think the way Richardson was talking in the build-up, he said it was going to be a massacre. It wasn't.
No, I mean, I know his team, you know, and I know he's 29-0. Like, he's a good fighter. You saw him fight Selby a couple of years ago, but, you know, sometimes they never get the opportunity till they come out, and, you know, we need to see him back in the UK or America again. I thought he was fantastic. I thought it was all action. You know, at times it looked like Hitchins was going to stop Lemos. He looked tired, and then he just fired back. He kept getting his energy back, come out like a train the next round. So, you know, for me, it was a fight that was 115, 113 either way. I give it to Hitchins. Probably I'm a little bit biased, but I thought he had the cleaner work.
It wasn't the masterclass, as I said, that Hitchins promised, but I think we, like you mentioned, we saw a different side of him. He showed a lot of heart in there, and he was willing to stand and train.
You have to show that. You know, in this game, you've got to be really fit, and you've got to be tough as nails at the elite level. Because if you're not going to make it. You know, you come up against people like Lemos and level beyond that, Matias and those kind of guys. Like, if Richie performs like that against Matias, he ain't going to beat him. But he's been through those horrible moments, and you can recall that when it gets tough again. So I think tonight, you know, he would have, although people will moan particularly about the 117, 111 card, they'll appreciate the guts and nuts that Hitchins showed in there tonight. And he was entertaining, which is what everybody wants.
Richie said before that he's not sure if he is quite certain to pursue the IBF route because of the rehydration clause. Do you think that played a part in his performance there?
No, I mean, look, he put on 8.8 pounds, so he had a little bit of room. But, you know, that was a learning experience for him tonight. Look, if Devin doesn't vacate the WBC title, then he has to fight the winner of Matias against Paro, because he's got a shot at the world title. So, you know, for me, I think that's what he needs to do. But we'll see what happens with Devin Haney and Sandor Martin.
Diego Pacheco didn't make it 10 knockouts in a row, but he did go the 10-round distance for the first time as a professional. Another good learning experience for him. Yeah,
you know, look, these fights are tough. Was it 81-0 for the main event and the co-main event? They're not going to be easy. And McCallum was a very good fighter. Tricky, strong, survived a little bit towards the end. But it's a good learning experience for Diego. You know, there's a few things that I think he needs to think about in his preparation. But that's a learning experience, and you know, rather than just throw him into big fights all the time, that kind of night and those 10 rounds under the belt are going to be really important for him to mature as a fighter. And you'll see him in a big test in the summer in Los Angeles.
He said in the ring afterwards that he wants a top 10 guy, a big name. Is that what you're looking to do now? Bring him back to play against that sort of opponent? Yes,
and I think that kind of night will just allow him to just progress as a fighter, to just take a little bit of time to see what he's got to improve on as a fighter. But a tough opponent, McCallum.
We also saw, obviously, Skye become world champion. She only gave Sarah Mahfoud 1 round, she said, which is obviously better than Amanda Serrano. A good performance.
I mean, I didn't give Mahfoud a round, but one judge gave her 1 round. And, you know, it's funny. I think you're seeing, honestly, 20% of Skye Nicolson. You know, her training team tell us what she's showing in the gym and in sparring. You know, I've seen her spar, you know, where she's hurting girls repeatedly. But how can you criticise when she's beating the number 2 featherweight in the world in a mismatch? Like, so we all want excitement. I want to see her letting her hands go more and stopping people. I'm screaming it out, and I know it's there, and I know she can do it, but also she's winning so easily. And the style is a nightmare for people. That's why people like Serrano don't really want to take the fight, really, until the money's out of control, because it's high risk. And you'll get people say, you know, our mate Steffi Ball say, Raven Chapman will go through like a knife through a butt. You won't, because when you get in there, it's really different. And the feet and the movement and the distance, it's really good. If she can start letting her hands go, because she can punch, she's going to be really tough to beat. And Raven Chapman is the mandatory. And that's a fight I'll speak to George Warren about, because, you know, beyond the June 1st card, which it won't be on, there'll be another 5v5 later on in the autumn. And that's the kind of fight we should be looking to put on. And, you know, now I need to speak to people in Australia. She needs that hometown defence quite quickly. She hardly broke sweat tonight. So very impressive. Loads more to come from her. But to beat Mahfoud in a style much more convincingly than Amanda Serrano was a big statement.
I know there's been talks in the background, or reported talks, about Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. Depending on what weight that's at, would that have any bearing on Amanda's belts in terms of Skye?
No, I think she'll hold on to those belts, you know, if she's going to have a fight like that. And, you know, Skye's doing what any young fighter or any champion should do, which is chase the very best in the division, which is Amanda Serrano. So I want to see her get a defence. You know, she'll fight Raven Chapman, and then hopefully the fight with Amanda Serrano becomes big enough for Serrano to accept.
And just words on Marc, Castro and Galal Yafai. Galal had to show a lot of heart there.
Yeah,
nasty.
Galal's really exciting, you know, he's all action. Sometimes he gets hit a little bit too much, and I think that's because he doesn't always respect what's coming back at him. But it was a good performance tonight, a terrible cut. It's going to keep him out for a little bit. I think you're going to start to see him move into those big fights quite quickly. There's no point hanging around at that level. He's too good for that level. He can fight for the world title. And the Sonny Edwards fight's there as well. I thought Marc Castro, good performance. You know, it was an exciting fight. I think he needs to move up to 135. You know, you could see him on the scales. It was tough work for him, and I think he looked a little bit flat at times. I think he'll be better up at 135.
Just a word on Galal and his cut. You've obviously been around boxing a long time. You know the sort of time frame he's looking at. When can we expect that to heal up?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know how many stitches he had, but it was a big cut. I reckon he's going to be back in May, June, July, August, back end of the summer. You know, he'll have 2 more fights this year now, and he'll go again in July or August, and then he'll go again in October, November, whatever. And I'm almost certain one of those fights will be against Sonny Edwards.
And before we touch on Manchester, it all kicks off ringside. You were right there between Alicia Baumgarten and Krista Shields. What exactly went down? Yeah,
this has been building for a while, I think, online, and I like the fight. You know, obviously you've got a big problem there with a weight discrepancy, but I think that, you know, Clarissa doesn't have many options right now. She's beating a lot of the girls around her weight class. So if they can get the weight right, I think Baumgartner against Clarissa will be a great fight.
And that brings us into Fontainebleau, an amazing hotel, amazing place to stay. Next stop, Manchester.
Yes.
Zelfa Barrett, Jordan Gilbert talking through that main event.
Yeah, I mean, onto what's a brilliant domestic fight. You know, both guys looking for a shot at the world title. Must win for both. Chasing the dream of fighting for the world championship. You know, got of course Ellie Scottney as well, trying to unify the division next week. Rhiannon Dixon going for a world title as well. Some great fights on the undercard. Looking forward to get back to Manchester before we head back to New York for Haney against Garcia, then back to Liverpool for the next gen, and then to Mexico on May the 11th, and then back to Riyadh for Fury against Usyk and Jair Patar and Joe Caldina as well, and then of course Taylor Cattrall. And some big things coming in June as well, with Paro against Matias in Puerto Rico, and of course Estrada against Bam, and much more to be announced.